Good morning, folks. Welcome to Talking Point. Sean Michael Small here on WESN, your content capital, the only nation in the station broadcasted in HD. WESN television with a difference. Glad to have you with us once again to speak on the important topics of the day. And it's somewhat of a sad reality when looking at what were the major issues that we have to deal with. Yes, we have ongoing issues that we don't want to see fall by the wayside. We wait with bated breath with regards to the pariah inquiries, results of findings. We wait with bated breath to see how the economy will play out. But the crime situation in TNT, I think, is continuing to steadily grow. All the while we have a new commissioner of police. And it's unfortunate that that nexus now, we're at a turning point where things might get maybe better, maybe worse. But the real thing is that we've reached a point where crime is making up so much of the headlines and so much of the news. I do wonder to what extent will we be able to push it by the wayside. Usually Carnival is good for that sort of thing, you know, to keep it out of sight, out of mind. But now we face the grim reality during this Lenten period of introspection. Well, we also have to think, where as a society are we going wrong? Well, to tell you why I'm so philosophical this morning, let's start off with the daily review. And with our first story, we're looking, of course, at the words of the Commissioner of Police when she was asked a direct question about dealing with the murder rate. And she said short-term June, long-term December. And I myself was I didn't necessarily like the response. I didn't have enough information. I wasn't sure if it was realistic. But the flip side is now, at least with regards to the short-term, I'm thinking it's to some extent, it might just be necessary. I did think that, well, because the question was to get a handle on the murder rate for the year. And the answer of long-term December doesn't really help anything with regards to the year if we have to wait till December to see any real long-term results. We don't know what that means. But with regards to the short-term, as much as some people might be skeptical on how quick it might take to get the results, substantial results, I would assume, by June, to some extent, really, isn't that what we need right now? Now, the bare outline, the TTPS doesn't want to give out all the details on what their plans and strategies are, but the bare outline that they have to reduce the murder rate, they're going to strengthen the gang intelligence unit and their general intelligence gathering apparatus. They're going to increase visibility with regards to more patrols, more presence on the streets, as well as with regards to how they respond to homicides. Roadblocks and house searches to search for guns. Right now, firearms are the preferred weapon for homicides. So that one, the estimates of the amount of guns we have in the country, that one in and of itself might be an uphill battle to get anything done within 3 months. Also having new policies to be rolled out to assist police prosecutors with regards to case management. This might be something that most of us would not consider off the top of our head when we think about how to deal with the murder rate. But generally speaking, if you follow the criminal justice system, how things are handled with regards to the prosecution of a case, with regards to when it gets into the courtroom, that is also a major concern. And finally, to enhance the Professional Standards Bureau to thoroughly investigate allegations of misconduct. This is also a big one. The PC and the PSB seem to have no teeth. And just like we saw with the situation with PC Gilks, what is the outcome? Were the officers involved in that? I do know they were in an investigation and they were placed on desk duty, suspended, whatever. But to what extent will the outcome of that case, how far has it reached? I mean, we hear usually about with regards to homicides, and we hear all the initial stuff, but we don't necessarily see all the follow through. So I think one thing that's missing here would be to help improve the situation, the perception of the situation, the understanding of the situation, is improve communication with regards to homicide cases and homicide detection, homicide rates, and all of these things. Now, the skepticism, I understand it. I understand it because we'll believe it when we see it. But dare I ask, shouldn't we be hoping? Shouldn't we be hoping that the commissioner is able to succeed, no matter how unrealistic we think it might be? Because to be fair, as was pointed out, there will be challenges that she has no control over that's going to affect her ability and the service's ability to deal with the homicide rate. With regards to various government policies like border security and smuggling interdiction. Now, the former commissioner, Gary Griffith, he had an interesting take. Don't know if he was trying to stir up a hornet's nest, but he said she will be boxed in by this timeline. And I think he speculated further with regards to the fact that she was technically close to retirement age. Perhaps implying that, well, if things doesn't work, maybe she could be replaced a lot more easier. But I think the main thing is, with regards to the boxing in part, to some extent he's right. She made the statement, and now she has to, well, live up to that statement. But again, would we want to wait a whole year to see minor improvements? Given the current murder rate that we have now, at already over 100, 2 months, over 100 murders, we can't really afford to wait. The murder rate waits for no one. Gideon Dixon, Police Social Welfare Association, he said he was wary of making such promises, but vowed his continued support to law enforcement. Technically, he should know that he speaks for his members, which would be the officers in the police service. Criminologist Daniel Ferreira, all of us are hoping it really declines by June. And I believe that's the correct way to put it. Dr. Andy C. Prasad, head of the criminology department of UWI St. Augustine, he says it could be done. But then he goes on to say, I believe that you need multiple strategies to deal with multiple different details, circumstances, factors in order to get it there. It's not just about see a murder, find the murderer, case closed. There's so many ways to tackle this. But again, the only thing I have is what would constitute a success? And is it up to us individually to determine what we think is successful? And do we want to see immediate results? Do we want to see gradual, steady results? Do we need a quick drop now, as soon as possible, in order to be satisfied? So, with regards to this, I will once again wish the new Commissioner of Police good luck in this endeavor. I know it's an uphill battle, and there's a lot of things working against her, but like everybody else, I just have to hope that somehow the stars align and nothing external outside of her control gets in her way, and the TTPS is able to solve this matter. Moving on to the next story. DTVP to have more autonomy. That's what the Criminal Bar Association is asking for. And they're looking for emergency legislation to allow the Director of Public Prosecutions to be made a financial officer with a budget to allow for the hiring of staff so as to circumvent the bureaucracy which now surrounds the hiring of staff, as well as the procurement of other resources. You see, the problem, or the catch, is the word circumvent. Now, budgets, the ability to hire and fire, the ability to award contracts, these things, that's generally where the corruption, that's the avenues where corruption could start in the public service. So again, the troubling word or the key word in the Criminal Bar Association's sentence there is circumvent. Now, circumvent the bureaucracy. We know the bureaucracy of the public service could be painfully slow. In your everyday life, I'm sure I've had to wait in line and be given the runaround and waste 2 weeks to just end up right back where I started in one instance. Literally, after 2 weeks of waiting and ringing around and going to various offices to put what was requested of me together, only to come back to the start to get what I initially wanted in the first place, which could have been granted to me 2 weeks ago. Now, the question is though, circumventing the bureaucracy. Technically, the bureaucracy is in place for a reason. Now, what will determine his budget allocation? Who will determine his budget allocation? What will be the measure of control over his office, the checks and balances, if this is granted to the office? Because it's not just granted to the current DPP, Mr. Gaspard, it will be granted to the office. At some point, he will be replaced. So even if we trust him, you know, to never do anything corrupt, what we have to do is not about him, but it has to be set up for the office, for all of the office holders in the potential future. Right? And with regards to his budget allocation, who and what and how it's decided, well, he could have all the authority over his budget that he wants. If his allocation is too low, what will be the point? So whatever changes are made, the problem is, what tends to happen is you make changes because we have a problem. The bureaucracy is bad, so we make changes to cut through the bureaucracy. But then in the process of making those changes, they have unintended consequences, new avenues for corruption. You know, it might not be the initial person that gets to enjoy the changes. It could be someone down the line. So we need to have now, figure out rather, new methods of controls, checks and balances, accountability, standards and practices to manage the new procedures. But that's the thing. If you put too much controls on it, then the new procedures will probably end you back at square one. So you have to kind of compromise between the two requirements. One, to ensure that you don't just open up new avenues for corruption. Meanwhile, you actually have to fix the problem of working out somehow to get things done faster, however that may be. And that's not so easy and it's not so simple. And the irony, of course, is if you have complaints about the current government or any of the parliamentarians, well, that's who we're trusting to figure this out. I don't know. I don't know. That's the catch. You have complaints about the current crop of politicians, but if you want major changes like constitutional reform, that's who you're asking to figure that out. That's kind of risky. Last story for the morning. The COP, the Commissioner of Police, is ordering an investigation into the alleged human trafficking. Now, some more details have come out. Another former UNC member has come out to say that a UNC member was facilitating sex workers and offering sex workers to him. Well, that's a question with regards to prostitution. To what extent now? Because after talking to Karen yesterday and seeing how the media has continued to report it, is it that red herrings are being just thrown out there to muddy the waters? Is it? I'm not entirely sure. Because the reporting seems to be focused narrowly. But I like to point out something. When I say the media reporting on the issue, but the US report said senior government officials. And I think one of the things that we need to do is not make the mistake that it's one official, that's the obvious mistake not to make, but also that it's one operation. Why couldn't it be multiple operations at various points in time that the US is looking at and is warning us about? And even if that's not the case, and even if there are red herrings being thrown out that have nothing to do with the report, if there's any kernel of truth, one former employee in the Ministry of National Security said there's no statute of limitations. So we could go after all of these claims. So the irony now is those who are trying to use this situation against their political opponents, and you could argue both sides are doing it, they have to be careful that they don't bring too much of a spotlight on themselves. Because why does it have to end with the situation that the US called out? Are we going to be naive to think that might be the only one? The interesting thing on this situation is the US Embassy seems to be pushing it to some extent. They're an outside influence. They're not within the government. They're not as easily influenced by the government. It's to some extent, it's sad that we might need something like this, something that doesn't necessarily have our biases and our baggage. And it's a risky thing to do, to involve yourself, even just by dipping the toe, as they did. It's still risky to involve yourself in the inner dealings of another nation. It potentially steps on their toes of their sovereignty. But at the end of the day, right now I just care about results. Where there's smoke, there's fire. I would like the fire to be outed, please. But we'll see as time goes on how this progresses, what will happen. Next thing you know, we have the TTPS investigation, and after some time, everything dies down, and we hear no more about it, and nothing comes out of it. Will it be like that? That's the other thing, Commissioner. When you make these promises, you box yourself in once again. Unlike your predecessors, I hope you could show us that you could deliver. Folks, we have to take a break. When we come back, we will get into the Minister of CARICOM and Foreign Affairs. He had a media briefing yesterday. A lot of it was to deal with some speculatory rumors or what have you with regards to embassy banking. But I want to get into his statements with regards to the refugees in Syria. So stay tuned for that when we come back on Talking Point on WESN, your content capital.
Have we taken into account the experiences of those who have received a devastating diagnosis but persevered, fought, and are survivors today? I welcome Ms. Sally Babulal, a brave woman who was diagnosed with breast cancer. She will share with us her experience of a life-changing journey.
When you get diagnosed, more often than not, you have no experience, none, with this disease.
What's Up, Doc? Every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through. Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit? Yes. What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive. It is not rehabilitative.
We, the police officers, we are professional, and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole. It's for all of us in public.
Does our government hate us? Why are they not doing anything? This is a message that one of the women who is in Syria gave to her sister that lives in Trinidad. That question posed. This is a topic that we've covered on Talking About, as I said yesterday, almost from the very beginning. I think our first guest, Nafiza Mohammed, is one of the attorneys that has been advocating for bringing the, well, now refugees, you could argue, they are in a refugee camp or camps. She's been arguing to bring them home. So this has been an ongoing topic for the last 2 years on this program. And I understand it's a sensitive topic. It's an interesting topic because of what it means, the precedent that it might set, but the time frame that it has taken, I think, perhaps it's too long. The Minister of CARICOM and Foreign Affairs, Dr. Amy Brown, he was asked a couple of questions about bringing the TNT nationals home yesterday at a media conference. So let's hear what he has to say on today's Q This.
Okay, just a follow-up question regarding what transpired. Just a follow-up question regarding what transpired yesterday with the Human Rights Watch releasing their report regarding over 90 Trinbagonian nationals in Syria, including 56 children. Have you gotten a chance to take a look at the report? Because they said that they have sent letters and communications, have a sit down with the government, but they weren't able to do that, and I know they are carded to leave our shores today.
Okay, well, what I can say is that the Attorney General has responded to this group on behalf of the government of Trinidad and Tobago. To answer your specific question, I have not seen the report myself. I'm sure it will come to my attention in due course in the near future, most likely. But the Attorney General has responded, has engaged in correspondence with the group, and has also very accurately reflected the position and policy of the government of this sovereign nation of Trinidad and Tobago, and share that not just with one particular group, but it has also been shared with the national public as well. So the public is well aware that there is ongoing work, preparatory work, that the government is committed to treating with this issue in a serious manner, but the public is also well aware that the government is treating with the very serious national security implications of persons of any category who would be returning or potentially returning from conflict zones. So that is not going to be an overnight development, but there's a multi-ministry, multidisciplinary team that is hard at work in such regard.
Minister, just as we go further into this matter, I know that the U.S. government has suggested that has offered to return nationals from Syria from different jurisdictions, and I know Trinidad and Tobago also falls under that. I know that your ministry, as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and CARICOM, have you all looked at that as an option to get, because the U.S. government has also offered to bring nationals of different countries out of Syria who are detained in northeastern Syria?
What I can say, Otto, is we're always open to partnerships and collaborations. That's the way we conduct our business. But on this issue, it is not just a case of conveying individuals from the Middle East to the Caribbean or Trinidad. We speak about preparatory work and the types of steps that are required. We are also talking about treating with the domestic national security environment. And that's something that we and our national stakeholders have to treat with. But as I said, we're always open to and we always welcome collaborations with our key international partners, including the United States of America.
So the minister is pointing out our domestic security concerns. And I'll be honest, 2 years ago when we were talking about this situation, I wasn't as concerned about that. The unfortunate reality is I think that our domestic situation has changed after seeing automatic rifles used in a robbery where security guards were essentially ambushed and had no chance to even fight back and survive. Seeing the new level of violence in the country where children who are in the way do not bring any sort of consideration or pause to the shooters who just spray into the crowd to hit their target. Or at least that's what it seems like to us. We've seen that more than once. One time, maybe it's an accident. 2 times, it's the start of a trend. And that trend doesn't seem to be slowing down. Thankfully, we haven't had any in recent days. Hopefully, I didn't just jinx it. But our domestic situation, I'm not too sure if it's that healthy. The flip side is, and the unfortunate irony is, why did this take so long? Because by waiting for it to take so long, the trauma of the individuals there is now compounded. And as some of the older children increase in age, now they actually get to the age where they have a capacity for violence and the authorities are probably looking at it saying, well, you have to be worried about them, X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. But even the young ones, their trauma is being compounded. And one could argue that their circumstances are significantly worse than the circumstances of the average criminal, the circumstances in his life that might have led him to a life of violent crime, that might have led him to a situation where he felt he had no way out and no opportunities. Well, look at what's going on in Syria. Now, the organization Human Rights Watch is an NGO based out of New York City. They came in here, and I very much appreciate their willingness to come in here. They came to WSN on AM Prime. They made the media rounds. Grateful that they came to advocate for the children. Human Rights Watch, they said it plainly, calling on the TNT government to promptly repatriate their citizens. If they can't take everyone at the same time, they should focus on the most vulnerable, the women and the children. The adults can be prosecuted if necessary. And this is the thing. Again, how many years has it been? I mean, I've been talking about it for 2 years, but it's years before that. Couldn't we have set up something? I get it, COVID got in the way. But still, this probably could have been handled before COVID. You could prosecute the adults if necessary. You don't have to bring them home and free them. Granted, prosecution might be difficult to prove which adult was complicit with the family unit moving over to Syria and which adult was forced, dragged, hoodwinked. There's one boy, he said his father lied to him, told me we were going to Disneyland. It's not my fault, it's my father's fault. He's still a minor, I believe. He's 17 years old, you know. But it's not as though he really had a choice in the matter anyway. Human Rights Watch, they're arguing, look, they're facing extreme hardship. Children in the camps have died in tent fires, drowned in sewage pits, been hit and killed by water trucks. Hundreds have died from treatable illnesses. But then the mothers have to hide their children from sexual predators or abusive camp guards. So we've allowed these kids, 56 children, to have to live in those conditions. I bemoan our education system, and I think that there are a lot more problems than the nation might see and understand. But it's still better than being stuck in a refugee camp. It's not a nice life for an adult, much less to a child whose personality, whose brain, whose development, he's not fully formed yet. His views of the world could be greatly impacted by such stark and extreme experiences. And the longer they're there, the harder it is for them to reintegrate back into normal society. Human Rights Watch warns of that as well. They did a survey, 100 children worldwide. They show that reintegrations is possible, but it's easier for them if they're repatriated sooner. So at this point, I don't know if there will be an easy way to do this. And the family members and the communities where these people came from in TNT, they have been prepared. And I've had these discussions years ago. They have been prepared, at least a couple of years ago, to help with the situation with regards to the reintegration, with regards to once they get here. And as the reporter asked, and I also know this for a fact, at least a couple of years ago, if not before, U.S. Central Command offered transportation. Now, I get what the minister is saying. It's not just a matter of transporting them. Because again, now, I didn't necessarily have these concerns before, but now I do wonder what will the reintegration be like. And to some extent, we don't need any of the 56 children, or I believe it's 21 adults. We don't need all of the adults to have any bad intentions. We just need one or two. And I get that. But for the sake of the possibility, are we going to punish the rest? And then there's the unavoidable hypocrisy of the fact that those who were involved at this end of the recruitment process in Trinidad, has anything happened to them? And I'm not calling for anything to happen to them, but I'm pointing out that they are fine to live their life while this group is being punished. Is it fair? Ultimately, Dr. Brown, I have a question. What is ongoing proprietary work? What does that mean, proprietary? In this circumstance, I don't understand what it means. Because, from what I understand, a proprietary process is a process which I develop and own and closely guard because it gives me a competitive advantage with regards to some sort of business endeavor. I don't really see why we need to have a proprietary advantage in repatriating our citizens, especially since we are not one of the first. Other countries have repatriated their citizens. We're not doing it. I believe European countries have brought their citizens home. Maybe it's a matter of the fact that European countries have the confidence. Why can't we? Is there something more that we are not being told about this matter? To not have the confidence to bring our people home, to not have the confidence to ensure that nothing bad will happen. And right now we're talking possibilities, and the possibilities, for all intents and purposes, might not even be realistic. We don't know, because we don't know what the government is saying. But I really would like to know, what is the proprietary work? And what is the big secret? Is there some sort of ongoing criminal investigation? Well, we're not being told that again. Now, I respect very much Dr. Mimi Brown and the work he's done for the country of TNT. Our diplomatic corps, our foreign affairs work, that's one of the areas where We see stuff being done, we see successes being made, and it's not an easy job. So I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. The other thing is the fact that this is probably a cabinet decision. But at the end of the day, just like with the murder rate, we want to see results. We as a country want to see results. I want to ask the people of TNT, are we okay with 56 kids being left at risk in Syria? How long is too long? When will it end? And when will we decide to kick up a fuss? But it seems as though our protesting capacity has been wrung out of us somehow. And it's just one more issue that's left by the wayside, shelved, willfully ignored. Well, Carnival is over, at least for those who observe Lent. I'll challenge you. And when the other religious holidays come up, I'll challenge the others then. What about the children? Folks, when we come back, we'll continue the conversations from a youth perspective here on Talking Point. Stay tuned. Sean Michael Small will be right back.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
The best birthday gifts are at dbesttoys.com. Shop for the best brands you love at the best prices. Like VTech, Leapfrog, Fisher-Price, Play-Doh, Hot Wheels, Barbie, Cocomelon, LOL, Baby Alive, Crayola. Visit us in-store at Forces Flagship MacBean. Shop online now at dbesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 32DBEST to order. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is it no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Welcome back to Talking Point, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to switch gears now from discussing the situation with the 50 or so children trapped in Syria in multiple refugee camps. I'm going to switch gears to speaking with regards to our general perspective on youth in the nation. We say it all the time, you know, young people could bring change. Do we really take it seriously here in TNT? Do we acknowledge it? Do we even try to take advantage of it? Well, to have that discussion on that topic and all of the broad range implications it might have, I have with me Mr. Kobe Nathan Sandy. He's the former president of the UWI St. Augustine Students Guild and a youth influencer. Good morning, Mr. Sandy.
Good morning again to you, and thank you for having me on your show.
So, young people, right? I think the general question now is, we look at our society, we see things might not be moving as well as we like it. With regards from a youth perspective, do young people identify these things and take issue with these things and think and discuss these topics, or is it just some of those things where they're still trying to find their path in the world?
Well, yes, young people do have or have been, taking matters in their hands to discuss lately. When it comes to the civil-mindedness of young people these days, I would say it has waned a bit, but for the most part, young leaders, youth leaders, are doing their best to get their voices be heard on the national and international level on their contributions to matters at hand. However, I wouldn't go on and continue the statements that young people is the answer for all of our issues. I would say that in order for young people and for us to really and truly buttress ourselves as change agents in the near future, we must use our time here, whether it be in organizations like the Guild, like the TYC, and so on and so forth, to really and truly learn the struggle of leadership, to learn what it means to manage people and to work with people, to understand the importance of professionalism, and to understand that youth work ought to be professionalized and it's not a book club. I would say that, and it may be an unpopular view, that young people we can be our own offenders, and we can be our own persons that will contribute to our downfall. Because the reason why society may not take the youth voice very seriously is because we may not even take ourselves seriously. I find it in many organizations that we as young people might be so, not all, some might be so focused on the position, on the title, or on what it might look on a resume. When in fact that when you look for them for the work that they're putting on the resume, you can't see it, you can't find it. And I, being a former Guild president, I can say it to you that many people come for positions, take positions, and don't do nothing with it.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of interesting things you said there. Just with regards to that last point, I think that's something we see at all ages, to be honest.
Well, you see, if it is we say to ourselves that we are the change agents, and we are dissatisfied with the current status quo of politics, and we want to disrupt that, we cannot continue to lead in the same way how our leaders are leading.
And right, so there's something that you said there that I was going to ask you if you didn't say it, but I want to ask further about it. To develop, that's okay, to develop leadership skills. Because one psychologist who I follow, he broke it down like society, education systems, and then the job application and recruitment and advancement process generally is not really looking for free thinkers. It's looking for people who could conform. And we take it for granted that then people who have been conforming, not just in school, but also in the workplace for all of their lives, are going to somehow now be innovative, creative thinkers and leaders and capable of forging a path for others when they've had to follow, sometimes forcibly, a path laid out for them. And what you said there, we should encourage, or we should have a capacity for young people to learn leadership from young.
Of course.
Right? Not wait and get experience as a follower before you could lead. Sometimes that works, yes, but to get the reverse is also true. By understanding the challenges of leaderships, when it is time to follow, it's not always, but those times when it is necessary to follow, you might be better at doing that. And when it's times where somebody needs to step up, you'll be better prepared in those emerging situations to step up.
Yes, most definitely. And I keep saying that in order for us to see the fullest potential of young people, we must depend on those who have went before us to guide and to support and to enable youth leadership. And it also must be that young people must accept the guidance, must accept the support, and must understand that sometimes it is not that the older generation is trying to, hold it down. I have learned that for sure, that the quality of your leadership and the value that you bring to the table is part and parcel of those who will enable it for you. I said the word enable, not to withhold. Enable, to encourage, to propel young people. And I say again, those youth who are listening, that we must understand that the politics of clanism, groupism, and bad talkism within youth spaces must end in order for us to propel ourselves.
The irony is you were just talking about youth spaces, but when you said clanism and bad talkism, I actually immediately thought about Parliament and just the current political landscape that we have in general.
We want to disrupt the current status quo, which is that type of politics. But we, on our own accord, are encouraging that type of behavior. So in order for us to really and truly represent the interests of young people in the country, we must work together. It mustn't be a competition of who is the most popular, who could talk the best, who has the best degree. It ought not be like that, because you know why? Nobody will take us seriously if it is we continue to have civil war among the youth space. We must understand that all of us suffer the same issues. Yeah. All of us have issues with employment. All of us have issues with housing. All of us have issues with trying to be established in society. But yet we have time to destroy personalities, to mash up relationships, and of course, to just, make this whole thing a friend scene.
Well, I want to speak about that with regards to having challenges, because I know in my younger days, and even not so younger days, I saw some of the same things that you're talking about. Even in less serious spaces where you're trying to get a group together to do something just for entertainment purposes, for personal enjoyment, and that and all, they would be backstabbing and undercutting, and it was very demoralizing, I think, especially for some people involved. But this is serious things we're talking about here now. And my concern, because we've talked about it a lot, especially with regards to crime, and I have concerns with regards to the education system, the lack of opportunity. So employment challenges is one aspect. The lack of opportunities now, and therefore the lack of hope for some people to find a path for themselves in TNT. Of course, that leads to brain drain, but that also leads people turning to crime. Like, to what extent are these serious concerns as you're potentially, you're watching the potential either fly away or be wasted with illegal activity?
Well, I would say that these issues are bread and butter issues. And when I was in the guild, I tried my best to represent that interest by meeting stakeholders to inform them that the student body rapidly leaving the UE for degrees and so on and so forth are going into a space that is more uncertain than 10 years ago or 20 years ago. We have to understand that we have a very highly educated population, and there are limited opportunities to cater for a growing academic population. And it is now imperative for policymakers, for the private sector, to, of course, make an enabling environment where there can be entrepreneurship opportunities. Because the only way forward to really and truly address this job crisis that we are facing in the country, the region, and the world, it must be done via the term entrepreneurship. And it is really and truly young people utilizing their skills, utilizing what they have learned in academia, and putting it into actual practice to create companies, create cooperatives for other young people and other persons to, of course, create jobs. That is one of the only ways I can see personally that we can address that job crisis going forward.
Yeah, at the very least, I could agree with that, because I was saying the lack of a robust private sector to generate employment is impacting. We're seeing the unfortunate consequences of that now. But with regards to entrepreneurship, I have to ask, is it that the bureaucracy, the ease of doing business, we hear that all the time with regards to different sectors saying we have this problem with ease of doing business to grow our operations, for new people to come into the space, or even to keep things going that exist. Is that the wall, one of the main walls that young people are hitting, or are there other obstacles?
When it comes to entrepreneurship, it's really and truly that investment. I'm not sure if that is ease of doing business, but it's really investment. Because you leave a degree, you leave the UE, you don't have no employment, so you don't have no money or capital to start a company rather, to give you financial freedom. So it is difficult to start to do so. We have opportunities in NEDCO. We have different stakeholders who might have different opportunities, but those are limited in his very DNA. And so there must be more opportunities to eventually capture young people, and even more so when it comes to the job market. More and more, and I can't understand it till this day, we are expecting years of experience for entry-level jobs. How it is that you expect a youth to get experience by not giving them the experience to get?
I think and I do wonder to what extent we've somewhat destroyed the entry-level job market and process to kind of bridge that gap between school and the workplace. But I want to switch gears from private sector, because yes, you could lead society by example, by someone forging a path and creating opportunities for others behind you. But with regards to leadership now of the nation and politics, to what extent are youths really looking to try not just to participate? Because the fear that I have is, some bright young people will go into political parties and get caught up in the same situations you're concerned with regards to the spaces in school and the various communities and initiatives. Like I said, it's the same thing in politics. But to one of your first points, it's not that we need completely different perspectives with young people to completely override the experience of the older generations, but to include the perspective and to maybe bring that element to change and to continue to adapt and grow and evolve. And when they go into political parties and conform, well, there's no evolution there. So do we see young people looking at the political life, the social leadership life? Because I'm worried that we're not seeing enough.
Well, it is waning from my interactions, and I can't speak on behalf of youth in the country, but I can say from my interactions with young people on a day-to-day basis, there is that dissatisfaction with being involved in politics, because they feel as though that their contribution or their value might not be appreciated or felt. Usually, those young people who actually go into politics and who are involved in the political arena, and not just parties, the political arena, are usually those who are very, very bold. And in order for and young people feel as though in order for your values to be and your contribution to be appreciated, you must be bold. You know, I haven't been guild president. You know, swarm with sharks, doctors, professors, persons who have had 40 plus years of experience within the leadership space. And of course, I can say that many of them respect me till this day because I stood by what I stand for. And I was consistent with it. I didn't waver here and waver there. I remained consistent with what I had to say on behalf of the student body. Because I understood that my space there, or what my position within this space, is to represent people. I'm not there as Kobe Sandy, I'm there to represent people. So once you understand, young people, you know, your purpose in any space that you are placed, you don't apologize for making your value be heard. And I encourage those who would have gone before us, and I respect them a lot, to understand the voice and to enable it.
Well, Mr. Sandy, I want to thank you very much. Unfortunately, we are out of time. It was a great discussion, and one that I hope that we could have and you could continue, not just here, but throughout the country, because I do think, as I've said before this week, we need to innovate more. Yes. And this might be, for our national survival, this might be one avenue very much where we could find that badly needed spark.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So folks, we break for news on the hour, and when we return, we'll open up the phone lines for questions, calls, comments from you, the viewer. Stay tuned on WSN, your content capital.
Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I am Denise Martin. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Minister Cox meets with TUCO to discuss social development matters. Body of man found in Taruba. Heritage executives and the Barbados National Oil Company discuss collaboration. And internationally, COVID-19 lab leak theory being addressed. Now for the details. Minister of Social Development and Family Services, Donna Cox, and members of the executive met with representatives of TUCO on Wednesday. In recent times, the ministry has been reviewing the policy for the Special Achievers Grant, and TUCO, as a key stakeholder, would have contributed to the review. The meeting included cordial discussions on ways in which the ministry can better serve the vulnerable members of the organization. The ministry's Special Achievers Grant is administered to eligible local icons for their outstanding contributions to national development to ensure that their rights and dignity are protected and enhanced when they are most in need. Police are investigating the death of a man whose body was discovered on Wednesday. The discovery was made along Taruba Link Road, Palmyra. The body was reportedly wrapped in a sheet. No foul play has been suspected. Executive team members from Heritage Petroleum Company Limited recently traveled to the Woodbourne facility, Barbados, to meet with their counterparts at the Barbados National Oil Company Limited. This meeting explored the possibility of collaborating on a joint secondary recovery program at BNOCL's Woodbourne field in Barbados. This discussion follows Heritage's ongoing success in boosting oil production through its enhanced oil recovery program. The Heritage delegation shared details of their operations and experience with their BNOC counterparts. Discussions centered around Heritage onshore and offshore assets and operations, Heritage's competencies in managing mature assets and implementing a robust operation management system. In international news now, more than 3 years after COVID-19 was detected in the Chinese city of Wuhan, the question of how the virus first emerged remains a mystery. But on 28th of February, the controversial claim that the pandemic might have leaked from a Chinese laboratory, once dismissed by many as a fringe conspiracy theory, resurfaced with FBI Director Christopher Wray's comments that the Bureau believes COVID-19 most likely originated in a Chinese government-controlled lab. Well, that was your News to the Hour on WESN. I am Denise Martin. Thanks for watching.
Hi guys, this is Vana Bigford inviting you to Woman Power, a wonderful show celebrating women. Come out in your numbers. It's on March 8th, 2023 at Napa. It features a wonderful cast. Come out and share energies with us as we celebrate women on International Women's Day.
That will raise my allergy. No crime, no crime. That will raise my allergy. Put in some in the calories. Put in some calories. Put in some jam. Put in some jam. In the Sunday morning, callaloo. Would you
The network of NGOs for the advancement of women and under the patronage of the Mayor of Port of Spain, His Worship Joel Martinez, is proud to invite you to Woman Power.
So let me tell you about real woman.
An evening of excellence in celebration of International Women's Day, Wednesday, 8th March at the Napa Auditorium. Come and enjoy Vonnet Bigford, Joanna Chuckery, Mavis John, Alicia Jagasaw, Sharda Patasa, and international soca sensation Patrice Roberts. In one beautiful evening to remember, special guest David Rudder. Your host for the evening is the multi-talented Penny Gomez. Showtime 7 p.m. Special reserve 300. General admission 250. Early bird tickets bought by Wednesday, March 1st. Cost $50 less. For more info, call 678-7549.
Welcome back to Talking About, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, now is the time where we open up the phone lines for you, the viewer, to have your say. We'd like to hear from you. What do you think of all the things that we spoke about on the show today? My discussion with Mr. Sandy with regards to youth leadership and my belief of the need to give them the encouragement, the support, not to take over, but to offer new opinions, new perspectives. Of course, we have the situation with the children and adults, mostly women, in Syria. What's your opinion on that? As well as all of the national crime situations that I pointed out at the top of the show. Once again, don't wait till the 11th hour to call in. Please mute the TV when you come on air. Good morning, caller from San Fernando.
Morning, Sean.
Morning.
I want to go back to the TTPS again, unfortunately. I see where the Commissioner of Police has now ordered an investigation into that issue.
Yes.
This recent issue here. Now, I don't know if you read the report. I read the report. And it does not augur well for the confidence of the population in the police service again.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, and let me tell you why. Remember, the previous Commissioner of Police, acting Commissioner of Police, had appeared before the Joint Select Committee several months ago. And at that time, he made the statement saying that the that the guns that were coming in,
yes,
the TTPS thought they were coming from Venezuela. However, the impacts report, in collaboration with the U.S., showed that it was coming through the legal. Most of the guns were coming through the legal ports. So there were no the intelligence in the police service could not detect that. Now we have, because of a report from the U.S. State Department, now the commissioner is going to launch an investigation into human trafficking. Where is the intelligence of the TTPS again? So it does not augur for the confidence of the population in the TTPS.
That's a good point, caller. I don't know if you'll stay on the line.
My second thing is this, quick, please.
Okay, you go ahead, you go ahead.
You talked about those children, the 56 children also in Syria. And you made some daring challenges to the public. And I am one to voice my opinion on that. If you go to the public, you will hear that comment. We, and I know some people, I could speak for myself where I could say, I do not want the repatriation of those children. And let me tell you why. I am bold enough to say this.
Okay.
Those parents of those children, knowing and willfully left this country. Because Syria, what was happening in Syria was, and Iraq wasn't any secret. It was all over the world news. And they left here to go across there to participate in that. And before they left, we know that the problems that we were having in Trinidad and Tobago, if you understand who some of those people were, and understand what some of them did before they left this country, why would we want seeds that are set in Syria to come back to Trinidad to cause? We don't know what's going to happen. They might very well be, the children might come back and be okay, but they have been there for so long. What will happen if they come back and 10 of them start to wreak havoc in this country? I am not prepared to allow that to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. That is a very bold take, and one that I would have probably very much disagreed with before, but now it's not so easy for me to disagree with, even though I want to. Do we have another caller? Shogunas. Good morning, caller. Morning.
I must say, I am disappointed in our new Commissioner of Police for making some strange predictions in respect of crime, especially murders. And she should bear in mind that the police have a very limited role in that. You have to get to the cause of the crime and the cause of the murder. And I have explained this to you where this problem increased due to failure of government to enforce the law. Right, like in East Drive River, when they buy out all the properties and they leave the shacks there. And then Manning went and put people to squat on the train line in Vista Bella. There's now a crime haven. And when the opposition heard that, instead of dealing with it, they went and put people to squat in the Shangwana area. And unless you address these problems from a whole of government point of view, you are wasting your time.
Yeah.
And what she should be doing on the National Security Council is get the Prime Minister to get the other people to do their work. You go ahead and misuse the word bureaucracy. Right? The bureaucracy is to review your performance from the point of view of achieving effectiveness and efficiency. And that is not being done. That's the problem. What is the problem is the absence of the principles of the management of a bureaucracy. These things are well clearly stated, like everything must be in writing. Right? The summary of this would be in your annual administrative report, which should be available in the parliamentary panel. I don't want to go on more. sure you have other people who want to talk, but do you have any questions before I get off?
It's just that regardless of what the issues with the bureaucracy, I think at the end of the day, the basic point stands. The call is essentially calling to bypass that bureaucracy, that is, whether it's the management or the system or whatever.
But that is what they have done. They have by force.
Well, and that's the thing with regards to the DPP. With regards to the DPP,
back to proper bureaucracy.
right? With regards to the DPP, my warning is when you make these changes, you might cause more problems.
Why? If you're not doing it properly, when William did it in his first 2 periods, what they're doing it now in Singapore, and it's working.
Well,
they're doing it in the Scandinavian countries and working.
I think part of the problem is the work culture in the public service is not all, it has allowed to evolve into this.
By mismanagement.
Right, but the mismanagement has been so long.
With people like Johnny O'Hara and them. And you have to address the problem. I told you last week, to solve any problem, right, you have to start. We're making no attempt to start.
Yes. With that, I could agree with you with that. Thank you, caller. Thank you, caller. Yes.
Okay.
That last point that you had there is very much right. If we tried to fix the issues properly, put the effort in, yes, it might take time to get it done and to fix it completely, but then we won't be looking at the office of the DPP and looking to have some kind of workaround. We would have things done properly, because the best we could do, if we're not going to fix the problem properly, as the caller from Chaguanas is saying, the best we could do is find some sort of alternative. And like I said, you might just shift the problem into some other factor or some other consideration, some other part of the workflow, of the process, of the system. You just move the problem around from one side to the next side. You don't actually improve the situation. It's just a side grade. But folks, the numbers up on your screen, 628-4578-623-9376. Call in. Let me hear what you have to say. Caller from San Fernando had a strong, bold take. He does not want to see any repatriation. He is worried about the risk that the children pose. And as much as I don't want to leave the children there, I don't have a way to reconcile his concerns. Because I myself gave points in support of what he said with regards to the fact that their whole worldview is shifted and changed, and I've been living in these conditions for so long, and it's going to be hard for them to reintegrate. Now, the flip side is, so do we just leave them in a punishment that is, for all intents and purposes, potentially just as bad, if not worse, than incarceration, because we're afraid of their potential? That rubs me the wrong way, but I don't have a great alternative to give you. And this is the problem now. We have allowed it to fester to the point where solutions are even harder now than they were before, because I believe by waiting, and I understand what the minister said, this can't happen overnight, but I believe by waiting, we have allowed the problem to fester and get worse, and the risk factors have gotten worse. And I've heard other people say what the caller had to say, and I don't have enough good, reasonable arguments to totally reconcile their concerns and to say it's going to be fine. Because look, less severe circumstances domestically has caused the level of violence we see now, that we bemoan and decry now, where children are being shot, gunned down, just because they were at the wrong place, wrong time, next to the intended target. So I would really like to hear more of the public on what they have to say about this. I know not everybody's going to be as brave. I'm not going to fault you for your opinion, because we've reached that point now where I don't think there's an easy answer, an easy way to resolve this. So the number's up on your screen. While we wait for callers, though, I might take this opportunity to touch on a interesting topic, going back to the COVID situation. And it's just the fact that, and it's not so much about COVID itself that I want to talk about, and feel free to call in to interrupt me at any point in time. But it's now been reported, not just by Fox News. I was waiting for other media outlets to hear what their take would be on it so that I could see what the overall general consensus outside of that one media house says. FBI is now, stating once again that they believe that COVID came from a lab leak. All right? My thing is, I'm not necessarily too caught up in the actual details of the origin of COVID. My thing is, the fact that it got so political that because one side said it, the other side had to decry the theory just because of who said it. And then because the other side decried the theory, then the originating side held it up as gospel truth. Meanwhile now, the FBI only has moderate confidence. And with regards to natural jumping from species and all of the other theories, it's low confidence, moderate confidence. Nobody has high confidence. None of the experts have high confidence. But my whole thing is, look at how the discussion became so polarized that everybody thought they had the gospel truth in their hands. When the fact of the matter is, we don't know for sure. That's what all the reports are saying. We have a caller on the line of Pitty Valley. I'll continue this after the call. Good morning, caller.
Morning, Sean.
Morning.
I want to put my little 2 cents in the Syria business.
Okay.
Is anybody think about what about the children and them who was born there? There are a lot of children there who was born there. They are not citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. How we are dealing with that?
Well,
children was
their
born
parents,
in Syria.
Their parents are TNT nationals. That should make them citizens.
Oh, okay.
That should make them citizens.
And I now make up my mind near or year about the situation yet. It's very ticklish and it's very sensitive. So I just wanted to ask why children was born there.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, caller. Yeah, it is ticklish. It is sensitive. And maybe the proprietary wake, if we knew what it was, and I don't know why, if that is the term that the minister used to imply that it needs to be kept under wraps. For what reason, I don't know, because again, listen, the Human Rights Watch, they said prosecute the adults. Of course, San Fernando's concern was with the kids. But like I said, feel free to call in and interrupt me at any time. Thanks, caller from Pitty Valley, for that. Although I do wish I was hoping we could get some more bold takes. I myself, I'm kind of on the fence now. There's a part of me that really does not like the idea about leaving children there, and you can't put that responsibility on other people. I just don't know how to treat with the fears of those who don't want to see troubled people coming into the country. We have a call on the line from Tacarigua. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, caller. You're on the air.
Okay, I want to make a comment regarding the healthcare system. Can I go ahead?
Go ahead, yeah, go ahead.
All right, last November, on my way to work, I fell, unfortunately, and I broke 2 bones in my left hand, right?
Okay.
I went to Mount Hope, and I must say I want to compliment the young doctors there. Very enthusiastic, very caring, considerate, right? And they got the diagnostic, the x-ray, they saw 2 bones were broken. And this was a serious matter because I told them, I said, can I get the surgery as quickly as possible? So they explained to me very nicely. I must say these young people are very polite, very efficient. They said, sir, because of the waiting list for surgeries, we will put you with this urgent matter on the emergency list. However, even on the emergency list, they said there are a number of people above my number with more urgent cases waiting for emergency surgeries. Now, this is the emergency list. It's like a supplementary list, not the original list, where you have a whole set of people home suffering or there waiting for surgery. And I was really flabbergasted. I said, but I mean, if somebody go and shoot somebody, as soon as they come in, they get urgent attention if you miss surgery.
Well,
right?
They get bumped up in priority.
This is the thing. I walked into that hospital holding my left hand, 2 broken bones, screaming in agony. They gave me an injection for the pain. I must say the young doctors did a wonderful job. But they couldn't do anything because of the number of surgeries people waiting, and they have a consultant that they are paying every month there. Now, let me ask you this. Is there a separate Minister of Health and Chief Medical Officer for COVID and another one for the other situations in the country in health? Because these people are patting themselves on the back on a weekly basis sometimes for the so-called excellent job they do with mitigating the COVID crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And there are thousands of people, sir, waiting on lists.
Yeah.
Or hundreds at least. This is one hospital. I don't know about the other hospitals. And why we spending hundreds of millions on all sort of festival and things, and these citizens of Trinidad couldn't get. I had to borrow money. My mother is a pensioner. She got a little gratuity. Borrow some of money from her to go private, because if I don't know, they couldn't give me a date for the surgery for and if my bone started to fuse, I may have had to live with a deformed hand, or they may have to break the bone again.
Yeah.
This is the crisis in the healthcare system. I experienced it firsthand. And the government and the Minister of Health patting himself driving around in his Mustang or whatever it is. I mean, this is kind of thing that could cause a revolution in our country when people suffering for healthcare and these people grinning like Cheshire Cat all over the place. I'm very frustrated because I'm still home going privately for physiotherapy.
Right.
I mean, I borrowed money, I pay back my money little by little. But what about people who have to sit down and suffer home?
Yes.
Thank you so much for your forum to air my grievance. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Have a nice day.
Thank you, caller, for that. Now, I will respond a couple of ways. This is just from what I understand to be the facts of public health. First of all, with regards to the bottlenecks in surgery, I don't necessarily think it would be the same department that would handle your broken bones in your hand and other orthopedic situations. I'm not sure to what extent they would also deal with gunshots. So different surgeries and the necessity for them might allow for, different waiting lists per se. I don't think it's not that just all in a general pool and one pool of surgeons for all surgeries. That said, I get it. There will be waiting lists because government provide health care is always going to be tricky. It's always going to be tricky. And there will always be one detrimental aspect about it. It's either going to be the price of it. Well, usually with government provided health care, that's not the case. Then there is the availability of it. And usually this is where the pitfall is, because there's not enough of it for everyone to have it on demand. And then the last thing is quality. Now it seems as though, at least in some aspects, we could do quality pretty well. This is one of the areas where, at least in some areas, we might lack specialists, right? More on that later, but we could do quality pretty well once we have the staff, general, certain aspects of healthcare, etc., emergency, surgery, etc., etc. But that's the thing. Quality, availability, affordability. Any healthcare system could give you 2 out of the 3, but economics, not capitalism or communism, economics, like just the laws that are unavoidable, no matter what system you put in place, will say that healthcare could be 2 out of those 3 things: affordable, high quality, available, universally available. It could be 2 out of those 3 things, but it can't be all 3. Because once you achieve 2, they will push the other one down. So I think we have reasonable quality, but we don't have, it's free, but we don't have capacity. We don't have capacity because when you make it free, there'll be more demands on the public healthcare system than on the private healthcare system. And at some point, it's very difficult to meet demand when that's the first option, where that's where all the people are going. right? Sometimes you might get people who should look for healthcare that don't go to the hospitals or the health centers. You might get people that don't need healthcare that's overburdening the system as well. So therein lies the challenge. Is it the minister's fault? Well, I will say this. The leadership is responsible for trying to improve things and get things done well and right. How easy would it be? I don't think it would be easy, but perhaps there should be something that he should be addressing, he should be explaining, and he should be attempting. Granted, COVID did kind of wipe out a fair chunk of his time in office, and it's still ongoing. But a lot of it comes down to budget, folks. A lot of it just comes down to budget. It might not cost you anything, but it'll still cost the country something. So it still costs you. Anyway, we're out of time. Maybe some other time I'll elaborate my stance on why I found it ridiculous with regards to the politics of COVID. But I want to thank all the callers that called in. Thank you, the last caller, for that. This is something with the healthcare system, hopefully we'll delve into. There are a lot of problems, and it is a problem. Don't get me wrong, it is a very big problem that we have to solve. What is the best solution for it? Well, that is a complicated discussion that we'll have on another time. Also, thank you to my guest, Mr. Sandy. This is WESN's Talking Point. Stay tuned for more local content, but until then, we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.